All right, so Sunday, January 20th, we're here at Lincoln, California at the Thunder Valley Casino, here for the 11:25 buy-in tournament today. Kicks off at 4 o'clock. It's about 12:30 right now, and they actually have a satellite going on for this particular event, which kicks off at 1 o'clock. So it's a $160 buy-in. I'm actually going to take a shot at that and see if we can reduce our fee into this tournament. So regardless, if I don't make it through with the satellite, I will play the tournament regardless, but since we're here a little bit early, I figure why not take a shot. So yeah, this is a bar that's kind of adjacent to the poker room. I'm not sure if you can see it, but in the back here is the poker room. So gonna rest up for a little bit and then hop into the satellite to see how that goes. All right, it's about 3 p.m. Just finished getting a little bit of food. Busted the satellite about an hour ago. The hand that came up, we're playing 300, 600 with a 600 big blind ante. I'm in middle position with pocket tens and I open it up to 1200. Started the hand with about 9K. Both small and big blind make the call. Flop comes a 3-4-7 rainbow. The small blind just leads for a 2500. Big blind folds and I make the call. Turn comes a 9 of spades bringing a flush draw. Checks to me. I go all in for my remaining 4 or 5K. And the player doesn't think too long and makes the call. She turns over ace-6 offsuit for a gut shot straight draw and 3 outs to an ace. So we go to a river, which brings a ace. So we go ahead and get knocked out of that one. And yeah, so planning to try and put in a little bit of time at the cash games before the tournament starts at 4. Probably gonna late reg a little bit, just depending on how fast or slow the structure is. At our first break at the 11:25 buy-in tournament, 25K starting chips, 40-minute levels. Actually hopped in at level 3. First interesting hand comes when the blinds are at 100, 200 with a 200 big blind ante. Another gun raises it to 400. A middle position player calls, and I go ahead and put in a 3-bet on the button with ace queen offsuit. I believe ace of spades, queen of hearts, and both players make the call. The flop comes ace of clubs, king of clubs, 4 of hearts, I believe. The under the gun player, or sorry, the small blind player just leads for 2500, and the other player folds, and I call. Turn brings a king of spades, pairing the king. He checks through. The river is a 4 of spades, and he checks it again this time. And I go for a little bit of value up at 5,000, hoping to get called from a hand like ace 10, ace jack. And he goes ahead and calls, and he turns over ace-4. So flop 2 pair, and then he rivers a full house, so we lose this one. All right, so yeah, this is actually an 8-handed tournament, and the hand immediately after the under the gun player makes it 500, middle position calls. I'm in the cutoff with pocket jacks, jack of spades, jack of hearts, I believe. And I go ahead and call as well, still processing the hand previous, and both of the blinds make the call. So we go 5 ways to a flop of 9-6-3 rainbow. The big blind bets 600, the under the gun player calls 600, and the middle position player raises it to 3K. Given that our hand's pretty strong here, I go ahead and call, and the other players fold. The turn brings a 3 of diamonds, a backdoor flush draw. I don't think it changes too much on this board. The player checks it this time, which I feel pretty good about. Because the 3 comes on the turn, he's less likely to have pocket 3s. So he's only really got 2 essentially sets there, being pocket 9s or pocket 6s. And if he did indeed, for whatever reason, had a loose 2 pair like a 9-6, now we're ahead. So I go ahead and bet 4K, leaving about another 8K back. The player tanks a little bit and jams us all in. I don't think too long, and I call, and he turns over ace-9 of clubs, and the river becomes an 8 of diamonds. So we go ahead and take this one down, double up to about 30K, and that's about where we're at right now. see a little bit of change of scenery, change of clothing. We're at Stone's Gambling Hall here in Citrus Heights, California. Pretty much the, I want to say, Sacramento area. It was a 2-day tournament that I was playing yesterday. Today would have been day 2. So the fact that I'm here probably lets you know that I didn't make it very far. And just stopping by here on the way home to San Francisco, had a nice conversation with the floor staff, and he actually gave me permission to film here. So kudos to their staff for being accommodating and friendly in that regard. And yeah, just before we head home, I'm going to hop into a little bit of a cash game session. Currently on the list for 1-3 or 2-5. Don't expect to play too long. Need to head home for some dinner plans tonight. So probably just going to stay for maybe an hour or so. Yeah, I was a little too tired to recap some of the hands from last night, but I do have a few interesting hands to share. The first hand comes when blinds are at 200, 300, 300. There's a cutoff raise to 900. The button calls, and I call in the big blind with a 6-8 of diamonds. The flop comes 8 of diamonds, 8 of hearts, 5 of clubs. Checks to the cutoff, who bets 1K, and only I make the call. The turn then comes a queen of diamonds, so we do indeed pick up a backdoor flush draw here. And I check it again once more. Given that we only have diamonds and not a combo draw here, I don't want to inflate the pot here by semi-bluffing the turn. And so he goes ahead and bets 2,500 this time, and I make the call. And the river does indeed complete the flush. It brings a 4 of diamonds. And this time, given that I don't want the hand to go check and lose value here, and although it's a bit of a weird line to call bet, it looks pretty strong in my opinion. I also just don't want to not get value out of this hand, so I go ahead and put a bet in of 7K, a bit on the larger size to essentially make it look like a bluff. Although the only real bluff that does get there on the flop is 6-7, so it does make it straight. And that being said, I just feel like I want to try to do my best to get value in this spot. And he thinks for a little bit, he tanks for a little while, but he ultimately decides on a fold. So we go ahead and take this one down. Our next hand comes when the blinds are at 200, 400 with the 400 big blind ante. He pulls to me on the button, and I make it 1,200 to go with 7 of clubs, 8 of hearts, 7-8 offsuit here. And only the small blind player makes the call. Flop comes king, 6, 3, 2 diamonds. Checks over me, I make a standard continuation bet of 1K, and he makes the call. The turn would pick up some outs. Turn brings an offsuit 5 of hearts. And this time, because we have an open-ended straight draw, he checks yet again to us. So I go ahead and continue our story of having a pair of kings here, and I bet 2,500, and player makes the call. The river bricks out. The river comes a 3 of clubs, pairing the board, and he checks again this time. And given that he's kind of taken a check call line on both flop and turn, I don't feel like he has a king here. He could have potentially a weak king, but I'm also just hoping that he has diamonds here, and he missed. And so I go ahead and put in a bet of 6K, and he insta folds, and he actually announces that he had queen jack of diamonds. So nice way to kind of rep a hand throughout here. Occasionally I think it's okay to mix in these types of hands on the button, especially in a tournament format, because they have a lot of playability post flop, and you've got position, and there's just so many incentives. The next interesting hand is when blinds are at 1K, 2K with a 2K big blind ante. Folds to me in the cutoff, and I've got about 30K, which is 15 big blinds in this spot. And it's coming to the close of this level. We're in the cutoff, and I open it up with ace-8 of clubs to 5,500. The big blind makes the call. The flop comes ace-8 deuce with 2 diamonds. He checks it over to me. I make a standard bet of 5K, and he just jams it all in for our remaining 20K, and I make the quick call. He turns over 3-4 of diamonds, and the turn actually brings a 10 of diamonds. We're looking for some help on the river, and it's another diamond. I don't remember exactly which one, but we go ahead and lose this pot, and we get knocked out of the tournament in this fashion. The question I essentially have is, originally I liked my play of just opening it up with the standard raise, but there could be some argument with 15 big blinds left to just jam it in here. So to those that play tournaments, I don't know. I mean, I don't play a lot of these, so I'm not exactly sure what the best line is with this particular kind of hand in this position. In the moment, I liked kind of opening there, but had the small or big blind jam, I don't know that I was going to fold anyway. So in some ways, I do kind of like just a shove pre-flop to deny hands like 3-4 of diamonds to even be in the hand to begin with. Granted, maybe being a little bit results oriented, but open to hearing your thoughts from those that are tournament gurus out there about, is it more appropriate to make a standard raise in this position with this particular hand, or would you just shove with 15 big blinds? So open that up for a little bit of discussion below, and yeah, let me know what you guys think would have been, how you guys would have played. All right, so the tournament ended up drawing a total of 137 players. I finished around 37th or so. First place gets 37K, second place somewhere around 23K. Pretty good turnout given that it was the event after the main event, the $1,700 main event. So happy that we played it, made a somewhat deepish run, not deep enough to cash, but feel good about the play overall. We were stuck essentially at starting stack throughout the whole tournament. So to be able to navigate the field with not too much to play with that stack, I feel pretty good about the way I played. And yeah, just gonna keep trying to find other tournaments that have good value to play in. But for the rest of today, we're just going to put in, like I said, a little bit of cash game action here. It's a really lovely poker room. I've actually never been here despite living in the Bay Area all my life, and maybe because it's a bit too far and we have so many other options by San Francisco, Oakland, and things like that. But this is where they do a really nice live stream. I think you can see it in the back here. Really cool to finally check out this poker room. It's an enclosed poker room. It's already a non-smoking property, which is nice. But yeah, if you guys have never been to Stone's Gambling Hall, it's super inviting, really nice staff. Granted, I only met them for a few minutes, but an awesome place to play some poker. Alright, just closing things up at Stone's. Just been in a quick 1-hour session. Need to head home for, as mentioned, some dinner plans. One interesting hand came up. It's playing the 1-3 game. It's a pretty deep 1-3 game here, and it plays closer to 2-5. Alright, so the one interesting hand that happened, the button raised it to $17 on. I'm in the small blind with pocket kings. Effective stack size around 500, and I go ahead and put in a 3-bet to $55. Folds back to this player, and he makes the call. Flop comes ace-10-10 rainbow. Go ahead and make a down continuation bet to keep my entire range in there. I bet $45. The player doesn't think too long and calls. The turn brings another ace, so it's an ace of hearts, I believe. And I go ahead and check it this time, and the player makes a bet of $75, and I go ahead and call. The river comes a 5, and I check it again, and the player bets $225 this time. Up to this point, had a little bit of light conversation with this player. He's a good young player. I can definitely tell he understands ranges, things like that. And I actually take a quick moment as I'm tanking to ask him, what do you think I have here? And he actually obliges and responds, I think you have queens or kings. And so a little bit of information that he's given me there. That being said, I've already concluded up to this point that he's a pretty good thinking player and that he's capable, as I mentioned, of understanding ranges and things like that. And I really like his bets, sizing on the turn and then as well on the river. He's essentially putting me in a pretty tough spot to, decide if he has an ace or not. Long story short, I think this is where a lot of times some live poker experience will come in handy in these binary call full type situations. I take a look at him a little bit. I ultimately decide on a call, and he says good hand, and of course I show him my kings and we're good. We later talk about it a little bit. He did ask if him answering my question of what I had affected my decision, and I think it might have a little bit, but as I mentioned, I've already concluded that this player profile is a very capable, good player. So I think it's important to kind of utilize some live table dynamics when you can to get a better feel for what you think players are capable of on the table. And I think that's where you can start to apply some exploitative components to a GTO based strategy, especially in a live arena where people just do weird things. You can pick off on sometimes people's tendencies for one, but also just how comfortable they are at the game and things like that. So just be mindful of that when you play in these live settings, to kind of pay attention to your different table dynamics and player profiles. So yeah, I think that caps things off for me here on this little trip. Going to head home. Probably not going to play in the Bay for the next couple of days. I will be flying to Vegas shortly towards the weekend. And so the next time I'll see you all will be from Las Vegas. And as always, thanks for watching.